Be able to do your reentry plan and look at what do you need to do to make it simple. You can't hear me?
You were frozen for a minute. Okay.
I was frozen. Okay. All right. So if you have a question, if you scroll your mouse down to the bottom, towards the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see a bar pop up. And one of the things that'll be in there will say chat. If you click on that, your little chat bar will pop up, usually on the right of the screen. If you have a question at any time, just type a 2 in the chat box and hit enter. And then Jody will let me know there's a question and we'll unmute you and you can ask your question. And I think that's the best way to do questions, okay? So let us move on. I'll share my screen with everybody. Hold on, I gotta find my, I lost my presentation, where'd it go? Okay. Can we see this slideshow?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the topic is planning for reentry. Now, if you look at all the documents, if you look at the form that Jody prepared on Google Forms, you just kind of look at it on its own, it can be kind of daunting, right? There's a lot of questions and you got to answer those questions. So we're going to go basically section by section, look at the questions and look at basically what you need to put in there and what's a good way to kind of go about organizing your parish to get this done and get this submitted on time. And this also takes into consideration how some of the other parishes have done this that have already got it completed. So getting the reentry plan completed. You just do it get your plan done in a way that works for you and your group. You can get together like we are via Zoom. You can coordinate everything through email. You can do a conference telephone if a lot of the people that you might need to rely on don't want to use Zoom or don't have Zoom or feel uncomfortable. You can use Google Hangouts, which is kind of comparable to Zoom. You can use surveys and have people fill out the surveys so you can get that information like SurveyMonkey or something like that. But just use what works for you so that you can get this accomplished and get everybody to participate that you need to participate and get this stuff going. So we put this together and we're talking about how some other people have gotten this plan done and what are just some good steps that make sense for you all to do, right? So first, reentry planning meeting or call, right? And that's probably the best first step. You want to have key people that you know, you need their input. They're decisive. In other words, they're willing to commit to decision making, and they're also people who are going to help you or help the parish implement this plan once it's been submitted. And then set up your meeting time and date. I would not. Sometimes you got to set up a meeting time. You can't get 100% of the people, but you can get 80, 90% of the people. and I know there's a short time frame to get this submitted, so I recommend that you pick a time and date where you get the most people. Hopefully you get everybody. Jody developed a Google form, so I would send that link on the Google form out to everyone so they have a chance to look at it and read all the questions and understand what the discussion is going to be about if they have not already. If you're leading this call, gather as much of the information ahead of the call as you can. That'll make the call go much quicker and much smoother. A lot of this stuff doesn't really require multiple people to submit information. A lot of it you should be able to put together yourself, and we'll talk about that as we go through each section. Also instruct the Reentry Planning Committee that you'll be completing the form on the call, and then the next step would just be to hold a call. And then after that, you're going to keep people on task. In other words, keep people focused on completing the form and completing the plan, and keep people focused on making decisions where that's appropriate. And then we'll consider some recommended answers that we will have in the slides. So important notes here. Once you fill out the Google form and you hit submit, it goes directly to the diocese. Okay, so don't submit unless it's completed and it's completely filled out. Otherwise, you've submitted it to Canon John Tidy, and he's thinking that's your plan. All right, so just keep that in mind. It doesn't save for you to come back to use it. So make sure you're prepared to fill it out and submit it at that time. Or you can type out your plan and email it to him at this particular email, John at diosef.org if you prefer. So either way you can do it. Just keep in mind the form will automatically go to him once you hit submit if you use the Google form. Okay, first section of information that they're going to be asking you for is all this administrative information. It's very straightforward. Most of it, if not all of it, should be able to be answered ahead of time, meaning before you have your call with your planning committee. The leader or the person setting up the call should fill out as much as this you can, okay? So obviously you already know your church name, your contact, website, clergy, their contact, senior warden, their contact, what buildings are going to be open, any additional spaces that you might be planning to open, buildings that will be closed, any outdoor spaces that are going to be opened or closed. They're also asking for a list of your restrooms and locations. What's your date of reentry plan, and then how is that being determined? Number of services planned, and whether or not you're going to continue online worship services. Okay, those are pretty straightforward. So the next is about cleaning products, right? Who's responsible for ordering and maintaining the cleaning products? That needs to be part of your plan. Where will products be located? Where are protocols posted? How will information with regard to reentry be shared with the congregation? Will reservation for services be needed? Who is responsible for maintaining reservations? Where will signs be posted? Who's responsible for signs, and where will signs be stored? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through all these questions, not the what church you are questions, but these questions that are on this screen and many, many more. And we're going to look at what are some recommended answers that you can just automatically use that will help you fill out this plan. A couple notes on the answers, right? The slides have recommended answers to the questions in the reentry plan. If the answers don't fit your particular parish, then just use whatever answers that you do. These are recommendations that should be applicable to most of your parishes. Okay, some standard practices and products, okay? And we recommend that this be part of your plan. Anyone entering a church must wear a mask at all times. A sanitation station will be set up at the entrance of the church with hand sanitizer and paper towels. Warden will be assigned to each service to ensure everyone has a mask on and it is worn properly before they can enter. Worn properly means actually covering your mouth and nose. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I know where I live, I go out you know, for example, I had to go to the supermarket and pick up some stuff because my wife is high risk, so she can't really go. And there's people walking around and they got their mask barely covering their mouth, not their nose at all. Some got it down around their chin, and they're not wearing it properly. So just make sure that's part of the case. The warden should count the number of people entering to ensure they don't exceed the safe number. Addition to wearing a mask, we would recommend the warden also wear protective gloves. That should be in your plan. No handshaking allowed. Safe distancing should be observed. And that also means no handshaking or embracing during the sign of peace. And any additional steps that you may be taking in your parish to make sure everyone is worshiping safe.
Oh, you know what, Rod, there's a typo. It says there will be handshaking. So everyone ignore that. We'll change that before we send it out. It should say there will be no handshaking.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't catch that. I knew what it meant. Does anybody have any questions so far? If so, drop a 2 in the box. I don't want to seem like I'm going too fast and maybe missing someone's question. This might be a good time right now to pause for questions before we go into the next section.
I was just a little confused by the first form where it says open buildings and not open. I mean, that doesn't mean they're open now, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. The buildings are not open now. And so this is the idea behind this is opening for re-entry into worship. And so, for example, at St. Columba, we have to open up our parish hall because that's where our restrooms are located. So you know, the sanctuary would be open for worship. And I'm not sure what else, but they're not open now. This is the plan that each parish has to submit in order to open.
So Deb, if we have a church and school, do the requests for opening, are they 2 separate requests?
They are, and we actually have, St. Stephen's has submitted a really, really excellent opening for their school. And so if I can figure out how to send that to you, okay?
Okay, one thing, we have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Number 1, is taking temperatures a requirement?
So my reading of taking temperatures is that it's not a requirement, but if you want to make that a requirement, you can put that in your plan. Reverend Deborah, did you read that a different way?
No.
Okay, so it is not a requirement. That might be something, you know, I would look at your particular parish. If you're in a parish where you've had, you know, some areas, for example, depending on where you live, and I'm not sure about where all your different parishes, right? But there's areas up where we live that's had zero cases, right? So if you're in a low risk area, maybe you don't want to do that. If you're at a place where there's been a lot of cases and there might still be cases lingering, that might be a step you might want to take, but it's not a requirement.
Okay, I have one more or a couple more. I've got, when you say having a warden, they can use a volunteer instead, right?
Yes, you can have a volunteer instead.
Yeah.
And the diocesan contact for schools, it would be the same team, correct? John,
right.
Heidi, and Susan, and Chris, and Reverend Deborah. Is the survey, when they fill out the survey, is that the same thing as them creating a plan? Or is the survey just used to make the plan?
Okay, so
wait a minute. What survey? Wait a minute. What are we defining as the survey? Is this?
No,
the Google
okay,
survey.
I'm sorry. I filled out a survey that you guys sent out regarding the plan of how we're going to reopen. Is that our reopening plan, or is that just the survey to make our plan?
If you filled that out and hit submit, it went to the diocese as if that's your parish's plan.
Which,
Okay.
what survey, Michelle?
Reverend Deborah, it's the survey I made on Google Forms.
Oh, this. Oh, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
same thing. We're just teaching this now.
So
Yes,
she filled it out. Is that now her plan?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more thing. So from Linda, in the executive summary, it was understated or understanding that temps were required.
It was? Okay, well, then temps are
think-
required.
It
Okay,
says,
Well, you know what?
page 2,
Okay.
it says church requirements, season 2, temperature checks before entry.
okay. Then I know there was a lot of discussion back and forth on that. And if it says it's required, then it's required. We misspoke.
That's exactly what I understood too, that it is a requirement.
Okay,
It's CDC requirement, yes.
okay, then we misspoke on this call. Then it is required.
Because they have everything outlined under season 2, what is required.
Okay, then that's required. We misspoke. Oh, I missed that. Okay. Any more questions?
From Faye. Faye, what exactly is your question?
Oh, so let's see, Faye. Let's see. We sent the survey out to our mailing list, but if you're not on our mailing list, then it is on the congregational resource page, or if you give us your email, we'll send it to you. We just don't have your, somehow for some reason, we have not been provided with your email.
So is that what she means by the plan?
I think so. How do you receive the plan? Is it sent to a certain person? Oh, here's her email.
Okay.
So we can just send it out to her. Okay? Is that the?
Okay, and then confusion about the word survey. The survey was simply what we created to help people make their plan. Is that a good way to say it? No?
No, I think that's what the confusion is. That was an outline of the plan and we called it a survey. We could have called it a pre-plan.
Okay, so just to let you know, we talked to John Tidy today about some other things, and he says you need to submit your plan to the diocese about your reopening. And when it happened, and I got on my computer, the survey popped up. So that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was asking you. So, but we as St. James and the Altar Guild and our reopening committee and our vestry, we have had meetings and we have compiled what our situation will be when we first open, and that's what I understand is
Your plan.
we will have our own.
Okay, let me just interrupt here.
Yeah.
This is what I said at the beginning of the call. This is an outline of a way to make a plan that you can send to the diocese.
Okay.
If you have already done your plan and you've worked with your group and you don't want to use this plan, that's okay. This is not to confuse the issue. This is to try to simplify the effort. So Michelle, for example, at St. James, if you've already worked on your plan and you have your team, then use that plan.
Okay.
Okay? One plan is not better than the other plan.
No,
It's
I know,
just
but
that right
that-
now, I mean, we have over 70 congregations and we've only received like 5 plans. So we're trying to be
Exactly.
helpful to people to get their plans in.
Exactly. So that's what I'm asking. So John Tidy and you and everybody says we have to have a plan and we need to submit it to the diocese. Is this survey that I filled out enough to be completed on our part on what we will be doing for our reopening.
Are you talking about the survey that we're teaching right now?
Yeah. This, what we are teaching right now has gone out to everybody on the resource page and to everyone who signed up for this training. So Michelle did the survey or training plan, let's call it a training plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has been turned in, it has been submitted.
Yeah. So
Would
then you're
that
good.
now be her plan?
Yeah. Okay, it's what we were, okay, so let's continue.
Ask a question.
Yeah, yes. We'd like to ask a question right here.
Am I on?
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we hear
Oh,
you.
You can hear me. Okay. Should we assume that the components of the template that we have here, are these the requirements, things that we should have in ours in order to have it approved? Is that?
Yeah, this is the minimum standard of what you need to have. We've
Okay.
gone over it with Canon Tidy. We've gone over it with the team. If you have extra stuff you want to put in there, that's great.
But these are the minimums.
This is the minimum.
Okay, that's important. Thank you.
Okay.
What I thought.
I think we can continue. So for the purposes of the rest of the afternoon, what we're going to show on the screen, we can think in our minds. This is called the planning document. Okay? I think that's safe. So we don't get confused with like it's a survey or not a survey. Let's just call it the planning document, okay?
Okay. Yeah, so survey just kind of connotes maybe the wrong idea in our minds, right? But just, I think just does everybody, before we go any further, just to make sure, if everybody's clear, just put a 1 chat box of where we're at right now before we move on.
I heard from Dr. Sweet.
Not yet.
I'm seeing a lot of ones pop up, Rod.
Okay.
So did you hear what I heard? But these are the minimums. But
No,
these
they're not.
things,
These are the minimum.
well, yes, so that by going through and checking. We could take it through it.
Let me go back to sharing. Okay. All right, so answers to standard practices and products questions, right? Who's responsible for ordering and maintaining products? So I'm sure there's someone who already does that at your church. What's the name? Who does that? Who's the person who orders stuff for your parish? And where will the products be located? That's a specific location, like, so that anyone who doesn't know where they're at, but they come to the church as a volunteer, they can easily find those products, right? So they're in the closet, in the in wherever, whatever the location is. So make that, I should be specific. Where are protocols posted for each space and building? So we recommend that they be posted on every door leading into the church or the church hall, or whatever buildings are going to be open. And also, again, inside the door. So if the door is open for any reason, there's another opportunity for someone to see the protocols and them still be visible. How will information with regard to reentry be shared with the congregation? Email, hard copy mail, phone calls to parishioners, okay? With an attempt to reach as many people as you can. Will reservations for services be needed? Now that's on a parish by parish basis. Some will say, might decide that reservations are needed. Some might say no. Just keep in mind, if the answer is no, you're not going to require reservations, then it might make it a little bit more difficult to control numbers if people are just showing up and you have a limited number of you have limited seating for that particular service. Who's responsible for maintaining the reservations? If you are doing reservations, and the yes was earlier, then you would sign the names of volunteers responsible for that. Sorry. Where will signs be posted with information for new practices? Again, the same place as the protocols on every door leading into the church. Posted inside the doors, so if doors are open, protocols are still visible. Who's responsible for the signs? Probably the same person, could be that volunteer. And where will they be located? Again, a specific location. So if basically your plan, you agree with the answers and all these statements, you can just plug those into that Google form plan that Jody sent out. Okay. So you just make yourself easy, cut and paste it, except for the things we need specific data. Excuse me while I turn this other phone off. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I apologize. Next question that comes up will be about the sanctuary, right? There's a list of questions on that have to be in the plan that are part of the form that Jody sent out about sanctuary. So what will be cleaned? So basically all common surfaces must be cleaned before and after worship, which includes doorknobs, light switches, countertops, pews, electronics, and any sacramental items, okay? Who's responsible? You know, you'll have volunteers and you list the name of the volunteers who are going to be doing that. And it might be a larger list of volunteers and they may volunteer for different services, but I think you get the gist of that. When will cleaning occur? Before and after worship and before and after any other use. How will spacing for worship be determined? So there's different ways you can do that. We recommend that rows that are not going to, or pews that are not going to be used for seating can be marked with a tape or a string across the entrance. And then you can do social distancing by using tape in the pews to show where, where people can sit and where they can't. After you've done that, you can determine the safe number of people who can attend and then pass that information on to the congregation. Who will keep a record of attendance? A warden, but you can make warden say volunteer, will be assigned to count the number of people who are entering to prevent more than the safe number allowed. How will the record be kept? That would, I think, be up to you, whether it just be something that they fill out. Where will the record be located? Those questions have to be answered. Where do you keep it? I don't know, but you could say the church office or something like that. And the reason why those questions are in the plan is that if, for example, someone in your parish came forward and said, hey, I have COVID-19, but I attended the service on June 20th, for example, then you could go back to where the record was located, who attended that also, and you could notify those people. So if they felt like they wanted to get a test, they could. So that's the reason behind those particular questions. And then how will people enter and exit the sanctuary? Let's recommend they institute one-way traffic. Everybody come in one way and go out another way. You could do it, everybody comes in one way, and then when they come out, half the church uses one door, one half uses the other. And if you wanted, you could also put a statement in there that social distancing will be enforced. Any questions on the sanctuary section of the plan? If you have a question, put a 1 in the chat box, please.
One thing, they're to take the names of the people coming in for the service, correct?
Correct. When they say keep a record of attendance, count the number of people who are entering, write more, and then you also want to have a way of keeping the names. So if a whole family comes in, you would not need to have the whole family's name. You could just have one person out of that family, right? The father, the mother, either one. Just because the object is, if someone later on says they have COVID-19, but they attended a service, you want to be able to notify the other people who were at that service that someone did attend who later got tested positive for COVID-19.
There's a question here from Linda with regard to the 10. That number 10 is firm for all parishes, no matter what size, for at least the first 2 weeks after reopening. And then I think then the parish can make an assessment about how it's going. kind of like a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, so then we recommend that you put 10 people in for the first 2 weeks and then use the language that we put in here. Any other questions on the sanctuary?
So I think this,
I have a question. Okay, you're saying only 10 attendees per service, but does that not include the sanctuary? Like the priests and the lay readers and?
Yeah, it includes everybody. The 10 is the 10 for the first 2 weeks. I know that's really, it's going to be challenging. That's for the first 2 weeks, just to make sure that we re-enter safely. And then after the first 2 weeks, the congregation can reassess. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And on the reassessment, we recommend they use the social distancing measuring and have a row between rows, right? So if people sit in the front row, you block the second row, let people sit in the third, block the fourth, et cetera, et cetera. And then once you've done that, you can count up like what's safely, how many people can come into the church, and then move on from there. And have a bigger number.
This is just a reminder that it has to be 6 feet all around. So it's 6 feet in front, it's 6 feet in back, it's 6 feet from side to side. If you think of yourself like the center of a circle, it's a 6 feet, I think circumference is the right word.
Yeah, circumference is the correct word. But I mean, you have to measure that. Each church is going to be, you know, there's no one kind of solution fits all as far as how you set that up in your church. You'll have to go ahead and measure that at the time, you know, when you get to that point, when you're beyond the 10. Any other questions, Jody, on the sanctuary?
we just have some questions about the 10 people only rule.
Yeah, I mean, the 10 people only rule for the first 2 weeks is that's it. It's just a 10 people. Nothing else I can answer on that. 10 people maximum in the sanctuary for the first 2 weeks. All
Yep,
right,
that's it.
we're clear to move on. All right, if you have any more questions, put a, again,
I have one.
drop a 2 in the chat
Hello?
box. Did you unmute somebody, Jody? Did someone have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Oh, damn. Muted.
Hey, you got a question?
Yeah, that 6 feet is from the center. It's not 6 feet. If you calculate from a group, maybe a family group. Hello?
Yeah, so a family group can sit together, but they can't, they have to be 6 feet away from another family group.
That's right. So 6 feet is not what you, as you plot your sanctuary floor, it's not 6 feet anymore. It's maybe from the center of the group, it may be 12 feet. It doesn't matter. So, you know, don't just use the 6 feet and plot your sanctuary for that, because that's as a 6 foot radius circle. It's not. It's yourself. If you're alone, it would probably be more like a 7 foot circle plotted on a floor plan. And then you've got to put these, superimpose these over each other. And you might come, you know, it'll vary each time.
Right, so if you want, you know, my opinion would be, you'd be better off taking reservations, right? Because now you can assign people, and it's a lot easier because you know, the Brown family's coming with 4 people, they can sit here, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it a lot easier. But you got to use common sense. Look, this is just a plan. In reality, you have to use common sense when you implement the plan.
If there's loud talking or anything of that type, the 6 feet no longer stands. It's more like 10 feet. So, you know, you have to study that and make sure that everyone works with that. All right,
Good point. Thanks, Ed. Who else? Any other questions on the sanctuary section?
No, we have a question about requiring the priest to wear gloves to distribute communion. I don't know if we want to handle that now or a little later.
Yeah, we can handle that now. Well, let's ask this question. I want to make sure where we at here. Has everybody read the On Being Faithful that I'm showing here? I don't know if you've seen it. Let me go all the way to the top here. This was a document the diocese put out, right? On being faithful. Has everybody read that? If you've read it, put a 1 in the chat box. If you've not read it, put a 3, please.
now, I have another question.
Okay.
Gloves no longer work with the 6 feet unless somebody has very long arms. And this is, I don't want to be, but it should be separate. People should come up. The host should be separate.
Yeah.
And
Ed,
covered.
may I just interrupt for 1 second? The bishop has provided a customary to the clergy with regard to communion. So we here in this meeting don't need to really discuss that. The clergy have been provided with a customary by the bishop. This is more like setting up the space and all of our volunteers. The bishop is requiring actions for the clergy. And Michelle, I will make sure that John Tidy sends out the customary to you. I think that might have just been an oversight.
Thank you.
And if anyone else is in a parish with no clergy and you did not receive the customary, please just let me know and I'll make sure that everyone has received that, okay?
You can put it in the chat box right now and we can start sending them out while we're on the call.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to get with John Tidy and it gets sent out in Spanish, English, and French, so. Okay. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, just keep in mind, this is about filling out the plan, right? There's other things that are in the being faithful. There's other stuff that's being faithful, and there's other stuff that's put out to the clergy that you don't have to add into your plan. So we're focusing on getting your plan filled out and getting that into the diocese so you can start your reopening. So that's what we're trying to focus on here. Altar questions. Again, it's asked what will be cleaned, all altar surfaces, and other areas identified as touched during the service. So anything where people are going to be touching on the altar during the service, those have to be cleaned. Okay. Who's responsible? Again, who's going to be assigned to that? And then before and after each service. Okay. Those are the questions for the altar section. Anybody have any questions about this section? Put a 2 in the chat box and we'll take the question. Okay. Sacristy. Again, if you can see, it's a common theme. What's going to be cleaned? Okay. So again, all common surfaces must be cleaned before and after worship, including doorknobs, countertops, pews, electronic, sacramental items, and any other surfaces that might have been touched. Who is responsible for cleaning? And then when will this be done before and after each service? Okay. Parish hall, office, and restrooms. Number of people allowed in office space. You must determine a safe number, must be able to maintain 6 feet of separation within the office. So now, I don't know what your church offices are like, so that's something that you would have to determine and put in your plan. Okay, you could say we have determined that a safe number is only one person. We have determined that a safe number in our church office is 2 with social distancing. So that's something you have to determine yourself and put that in your plan. How will the number be determined? Again, this is just a recommendation, and measure available square feet of space and determine how many people can safely work in there and still maintain 6 feet of separation, okay? Again, it's going to ask what the plan asks what will be cleaned. It's the same, all common surfaces. Who will do that? And then every morning.
Hey,
Someone has a
I
question.
interrupt again? Yeah, I do. 2 weeks ago, New York Times Science Times, page 8, on the bottom of the page, there was an upgrade on the spread of the virus. And if you would look that up, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's very important because it changes all the thinking. Surfaces are not that important. It's air, particles in the air that are very important. And what you have to do is look that up and then continue this, get this information in your preparation here, because that's very important to look at. It's Science Times.
Yeah, actually, Ed, may I interrupt? I know that the group was discussed the Science Times article, but still decided that they wanted to maintain these sanitation practices, high sanitation practices in an abundance of caution. That's right. Better to be safe. Faye just put up, let's keep cleaning the surfaces, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We all decided. And that's also why we decided to keep the first 2 weeks at 10. That's exactly why, because of the airflow and in that exact article. That's an important article.
Not only that, we're guided by CDC requirements, and that is a requirement of CDC for the faith-based communities. And as far as virus in the air, they don't stay there, they settle. So we look at the science and the recommendations from CDC. Otherwise, we see lots of stuff in the papers.
Yeah.
Yes, and this cleaning requirement is in the faithful document. So
True. Okay.
So it's required to be in your plan. You're required to clean as part of your plan. That's outlined in the document, and there's a basis in fact for requiring us to do that. So that's why that's in here, and that's why it needs to be part of your plan that you submit.
What I like
that's all from CDC, because that's, if you look at the references that we had for our document and you go to CDC, you'll see that there.
What I'd like to add is that bathrooms should be ventilated. This is, and if you have no windows in a bathroom, this becomes a problem. If you have bathrooms that are ventilated, you should leave them open and close the others. Okay, all right.
I think that's a good point. I'd be interested to know if you do have bathrooms that have no ventilation under today's code is required, but
yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the office section of the plan?
Nothing yet.
Okay, let's move on. So now we're into Ed. Ed, we're going to talk about the restrooms again. So the restroom's a little bit different because you're going to have each user of the restroom be responsible to clean after his and her use. So you make sure that in your plan and in reality, right, you have cleaning materials in there. And then after the person uses it, that they also clean the bathroom or the restroom, all the common surfaces where people could be touching, right? Doorknobs, countertops, light switches, electronics, and common use items. Okay, so any place where someone would be touching in the bathroom, they're required to clean. That's on top of the morning and evening cleaning. Okay. Anybody have any questions on restroom section?
Nope.
Okay, so what we've basically done, we've gone through all the questions that the plan is asking you to address, okay? So is there any section we want to go back and review? Is there anything we want to discuss? Is there anything we want to, anything else here that we talked about? Do we need to talk about in some more depth?
I mean, just for example, if you're going to have more than the sacristy, the restrooms, and the church office open, you'll just need to include that in your plan. Everyone understands that, right? Okay. And so if you want to fill out this plan, where is everyone buying the supplies? Well, we've been buying our supplies online. We have not been able to locate Lysol yet anywhere. We have only 1 can of Lysol. And okay, so then that's a good idea. Home Depot generic, they have Lysol. Where are you located, Suzanne? Or did you find that online? Okay, so in Wellington. Yeah, so that has been our problem at St. Columba, was finding the Lysol. Otherwise, we ordered all of ours online and we didn't really have any trouble getting the hand sanitizer, buying the masks. It was very, we just let our fingers do the walking through the Amazon yellow pages and ordered up.
So on that, Reverend Deborah, I mean, for my own personal use, we ordered sanitizing wipes on Amazon. They were like the Amazon generic brand, and they were in stock, right? So
yeah,
and they were just shipped us. I think they're being delivered tomorrow. So
yeah.
look on Amazon, look on different places, and you know, there's a lot of other things that you can use other than Lysol. Okay, so keep in mind, you know, there's a lot of different products. I know when I went to Home Depot, the Lysol was totally sold out, but the Clorox cleaner with, you know, whatever the minimum amount of bleach, it does the same killing, and that was in there. So, you know, keep anything that's a disinfectant you can use. It doesn't have to be specifically the brand name, as long as it's a disinfectant is proven to kill the bacteria. Other questions?
What's the turnaround time for feedback once the plan is submitted?
Yeah. It says right now, since we only have 3 plans, it's been really fast. But if we get everyone's plan on the same day, you know, we're reading them as soon as we get them and responding as soon as we get them. If we get, you know, over 70 or over 65 plans in one day, it's going to take a little bit longer, but, you know, quick, so that everyone can, you know what to do in a timely fashion.
So Deborah, those that have been submitted and received feedback, are they actually given a date in which they can open?
Well, there's the question, really. I mean, we're working with an epidemiologist, and I mean, I don't know if you've read the news. The news today from Arizona is they've put their emergency practices back in place because they opened in a careless manner, and now their numbers are going up so quickly. They have reactivated the hospitals on an emergency. I'm not saying it correctly, but they have gone back to the emergency level. So we have an epidemiologist, and he has provided a protocol to the diocese. And tomorrow he's going to be providing the diocese charts, county by county charts, that will show like the 14 days. It will show the what is it called? The 14-day rolling average. The 14-day rolling average. And so, I mean, if the truth be told, and I mean, Helen can really speak to this very well because she knows a lot about public health. If we're, let's say, like down in the Keys, for example, we have had 4 people die. 4 people die of COVID-19. Let's say that that number would change a lot in the next 2 days or 3 days, then our rolling average would really change and we would have to pull back from the opening. I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide this document as a baseline, but I think we all know that this might be a process where we're opening and we're closing. I mean, we hope that's not true, but that might be what happens. And so, in each county, each deanery might be different. You know, they might have different, a different rolling average. And so, I mean, there's no I mean, we all like definite answers. There's no definite answers. We're just trying to provide a framework the best we can for safe practices for our buildings and then a way forward. But if we go in the direction of Arizona, which I hope we don't, but let's say I was shocked when I opened up the paper this morning and I saw Arizona had put in emergency practices again. But they have. We're just going to be on our guard.
I think what I hear you saying is that through this planning process and submission to the diocese, you are asking us all to be fully ready.
Yeah.
Such that when the conditions are appropriate, we can open our doors.
Exactly. And one thing Bishop Eaton has been really clear about is if your parish doesn't want to reopen, doesn't want to re-enter, that's okay. You know, there are some really large Episcopal congregations in the U.S. that they've decided it's too dangerous to reopen, and they'd rather hold back until a further time. And so Bishop Eaton has been really clear that this is not like reopen now. This is more do these safe practices. You know, do these safe practices, get your plan ready. It's kind of like when we do a plan for a hurricane. You know how we have the plans for hurricanes? I mean, we're all hoping we don't have a hurricane, but we all do our plans. So it's not like we're all hoping we never re-enter the building, but we're all going to do our plans. And then your priest, your clergy, or your parish administrator will be able to keep track of that chart. And your re-entry team, this conversation might have to be revisited many times. You know, open 1 week, close the next 3 weeks, open 3 weeks, close 1 week. We really don't know the way forward, but at least we have a plan for going forward as safely as we can. I mean, I've told my parish, my goal at St. Columba is this. I want everyone that got on the bus for St. Columba at the beginning of the season is going to be able to get off the bus happy and healthy. And that is really my goal. And so the bishop is encouraging all parishes to maintain their online worship so that I have a number of people at St. Columba, they've told me, we're not coming back until there is a vaccine. We'll continue to do the online worship. It's not as exciting as in person, but we're going to do online worship. And so the bishop is encouraging everyone to maintain online worship. And if you haven't started online worship in your congregation, you know, let us help you. I mean, let us help you to figure that out. Okay? I mean, that's food for another conversation, but we can all work together and make it happen.
So for sure, we are closed until June, until the end of June, per the bishop. And we don't know if he is going to change that date or make it longer yet, correct?
That's correct. I mean,
Can
I
I say
think.
something?
What? Did someone say something?
May I say something?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
The resources that you sent out with this is absolutely fantastic. And I love the survey. I love the letter that we can send to our parish. I love everything about it. And so we have already done that. And what I found was interesting is that we're a small parish, you know, in the very beginning here, but one of the questions that we asked, and we only curtailed that survey out to the parish with 4 questions, but one of them was, is virtual learning something that you would like to see? And not one person answered yes. So we are going to, that's why it's very important for us to do this the first part of July, having our very first service in person with the guidelines. So we're going to, you know, we're going to do our best, but that survey that was sent out, I hate saying survey, but that was a resource that you put on that. And
Right.
I made my very first survey monkey, which was pretty cool. Never done that before. And curtailed it to our congregation, and virtual services was not even, no one even said that they wanted that. So we're gonna, you know, we're a small parish, so we're gonna do it the first part of July and see how it goes with every guideline that we have and by every precaution that we can do, and just pray for us.
Okay. I mean, I think we all want to reopen, re-enter as soon as we can, but we're only going to do it when the numbers are the right numbers.
Correct.
I mean, that the bishop is very clear on that.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage your parishioners to maybe try to think about a way to think about online worship as a positive experience.
Thing, Deb, too, is thinking about your seniors.
Yeah.
For the
Absolutely.
populations you have, and they should be encouraged to stay home and watch the, you know. So in your surveys, maybe, you know, you need to, I did a survey too, but my own was more like in giving them information on some things, what's happening, like wearing the mask, if these are things they would agree to. So I gave them a list of some.
Correct.
But yes, they
Well,
need
we are a seasonal church, and our normal numbers are 15 to 30 during the summer.
Oh.
And with the survey that we did prior to this, we had about 18 responses that said that they will go by the CDC guidelines. And so we are prepared to do exactly what we are required to do. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to try to do anything. We're not going to try to, you know, sneak people in. We're going to do exactly what we are supposed to do, and we'll see how it goes, because we're in an opportunity to do that, because I mean, everybody's gone, and half of our normal congregants have said that they will not return until there's a vaccine. So I mean, I think we're going to be okay. I think we'll be okay for that first time, and we will. And if we have to turn people away to comply to that 10 people rule, we'll do it.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else have any concerns or any points?
There's some concerns about the temperature checks. Who needs to do them? Who's required to do them? Where to do them? Do we do them at home? Can we come in saying that we've taken our temperature? Do we do them at the door?
Yes, I put the first statement out there. I don't read that as requiring you to check people's temperature as they come in the door. But that, you know, you can read that for yourself. And maybe, I think that's something that should probably be clarified.
Yeah.
That
Let's
as you check your temperature, if you're not feeling well, don't go to church, and that's on everybody's responsibility. But I don't think I don't read the plan, the faithful plan, as requiring you to check everybody as they enter.
You know what we'll do? We will clarify that. We will clarify that information and we'll put it out on our resource page, okay? And we'll clarify how that might happen. What would that look like? You know, at the door. Who would do it? What would that look like? How would the people be approached? I mean, I think the people at the door, your normal greeter or hospitality person, is going to really need some special training, you know, some special training. So
It's only, hello?
we can hear you. Go ahead.
It's a problem. Who is me? All
Yeah,
right.
your
The problem with temperature checks, and it's, again, it's a partial, it tells you that a person is sick at the time, may have the virus or but most of the way this virus is transmitted is without symptoms,
Yeah.
without temperature. And, you know, we can do, the temperature check is a positive, yes, but we have to remain cautious over the whole field. It's not just temperature checks. And then, you know, you were talking about, again, I'm going back to bathrooms. We have old people in our church. I mean, I'm one of them, and to clean a bathroom after they go in, we'd have to have someone do that. And
Yeah,
how
okay,
would you
so
clean it?
let me just interrupt for a second, Ed. So with your church, you're St. Luke's, right?
Yes.
You're St. Luke's, so that might be a position that you might have to fill with someone paid, or a rolling roster of volunteers that are willing to do it. Like, you do this Sunday, I'll do that Sunday, but that's going to be up to your congregation. It's just something that's going to be an individual choice, either a paid person, like the larger churches, they have full-time sextons on staff, you know, sometimes even 2 on Sundays. I mean, that's what I dream of, but that's not what I have. But that will be an individual. How you manage it is going to be up to the individual parish, but it must be managed. That's the clarifying information.
It's my question. What I'm saying is that we can, if we read these instructions, we can interpret them in different ways. And there's not much of a way you should, only one way you should interpret them. And we have to direct that.
Yeah, I mean, we're leaving it, I mean, we're not going to be the bathroom police. You know, we're not the bathroom police. We just want to try to make sure everyone is safe, and we're trying to do the right thing to keep people safe. And we believe that, you know, that each congregation will work very hard to keep their parishioners safe within these guidelines.
I'm talking all over the church. That's not the bathroom now. This is,
Yeah.
we can't have people hugging each other as they meet each other. This is a no. There's all sorts of problems that we haven't addressed too well. Let's put it that way.
There's no hugging. Well, that's in the document. There's no hugging, and that should be reiterated in the letter home. There's no. It's a 6 feet of social distancing. And I think if you reinforce that message, you know, over and over to people, they'll get the message. And if not, you can always use a whistle, like a lifeguard. I'm joking. It's a joke.
We have a comment from Linda.
Okay.
Am I unmuted? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm asking to speak because my question's too much to type. I'd like to get back to taking the attendance. What we have planned to do at Holy Sacrament is take the attendance, ask people for their phone number and their email address, although with the small amount of people that we're going to be allowed in the service, we know each other. But, and I know the purpose of that in case someone tests positive 5 days later. And so we know who we need to contact. Who does that contacting? What is the protocol if attendee number 9 calls at 5 days and says to the church, I tested positive? First of all, do we send something to our parishioners who attended? If you test positive, please notify the senior warden. And then what happens next?
I think it's the health department. I think the health department does the notification. And
so we would call the health department and give them the name of the people and—
No, because, oh no, once you're tested, if you test positive, that information is passed immediately to the health department for your county. And
so
then
what would be the purpose of doing the attendance list? Because we were even concerned about knowing where people sat, because we're going to be videoing.
Okay, here's why. Because contact tracing right now, that is really one of the best forms they found to try to mitigate against this virus, and that is not a complete process in the state of Florida. We are nowhere near achieving what the CDC has recommended. We have in no way been able to, as the state of Florida, live up to very many of the recommendations of the CDC requirements on a statewide level. I mean, we are opening for economic well-being, as not in the church. That's why we're not open yet. We're opening, the state of Florida is opening based on economic well-being as the first point. And the second point is the physical health of the people of the state of Florida. And so the reason that we put this in is because contact tracing has been established as one of the primary mechanisms to inhibit the growth of the viruses. Our concern is this: contact tracing is not up to the par that it's supposed to be. And so if I had a parishioner in my parish that they called me on Tuesday and said, you know what, I'm not feeling well, I've been tested, I would want to know who was in the group so that I could protect my parishioners, because I want everyone to live through this. Does that make sense?
No, I'm still confused. You would contact the parishioners? If someone from your church called you and said they were positive, you wouldn't wait till the CDC called you for the attendance sheet? You would contact your parishioners?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to talk to our attorney. I think that's a very good question, but you know, I probably would contact the parishioners. Now, that might be legally incorrect, but with 10 people, I would probably tell them, I encourage you to get tested. There must be some kind of legal way to say without going through HIPAA. There must be some way of not going afoul of HIPAA to say, I encourage you to get tested.
Yeah.
You will let us know. You will let us know, correct?
I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
We'll talk to the attorney, because I understand your concern with regard to anonymity and HIPAA.
Thank you.
So with regard to anonymity, right, you cannot disclose who tested positive.
Right.
Right, but you can encourage people to go get tested. You can't say, hey, Reverend Deborah tested positive.
That's right.
Right. And that can scare a lot of people.
Right. And because you don't want to ostracize somebody, right? But you can say, hey, listen, it's believed that someone who was someone tested positive in the parish, make it broad, right? And we recommend you go get tested.
Yeah,
right?
or for example, if you know that your health department in your county is doing a really great job at contact tracing, you could call the county and say, I'm in charge of the reentry program for my parish, or get the parish administrator and say, I'm in charge of that. you know, Jane Doe has said that she's tested positive for COVID-19. And we want to know how soon you're going to be doing the contacting on the people that were around Jane. And if they say we're going to get to it in a week or so, then you know, time to get on the phone and say, hey, you might want to get tested. There's been, it's kind of like when somebody has head lice, if you've ever had kids, and your kid comes home and they say, hey, there's been an instance of head lice in the classroom. They don't say, you know, Sally had head lice. They say, you know, this has happened. For those of you who have experienced that. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I have another legal question if you're talking to the attorney.
Okay, but remember, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm going to really get like I'm going to get a lawyerly response, because
Okay.
I'm just telling you what I'm going to do, and I'm down in the Keys where, you know, we're not, you know, no one's around us.
Okay, I'm just wondering if anybody's going to have anybody sign a waiver. And I'm asking the question because I was on a SEEP conference about 3 weeks ago. And the church that's opening up there, a church of about 1,200 average worship attendance, is only opening with 25 the first time around. But they had, and I couldn't get a copy of the waiver. They were going to have everybody who attended a waiver that the church is not responsible if they get sick. Is our diocese at all looking at that? I mean, I just think it's a scary way to get people invited and welcome to the church. But
you know what? They talked about it. It was discussed. I would say maybe people had heard about that same church. It was discussed, but it's, as far as I know, it's not going to be, it's not in our documentation.
Thank you.
Hello. The church, if CDC guidelines aren't followed, the church is responsible. No matter, so you must follow the guidelines. Absolutely. Otherwise,
that's why we're doing so much follow-up on this.
That's right.
As you know, normally we just make suggestions and we pray for the best result.
That's right.
Not this time. Any other questions? Okay, so you all have received the plan and document from Jody. You see that it's a fill in the blank, and you know that if you have a different plan that fulfills all of those requirements, you're welcome to use that plan, no problem. If you want to do attachments to that plan, you're welcome to do that also. And if it's particularly good, we'll ask your permission if we can, you know, use it around the diocese.
You also keep in mind that although there's a required plan to re-enter, okay, no one's telling you go re-enter. If your parish doesn't feel comfortable re-entering until August, that's fine. You don't have to, you're not forcing people to go to church tomorrow, right? But what the diocese is asking for is re-entry, whenever that is. What is your plan in this phase of the COVID virus, okay? So you submit your plan is approved, and your parishioners say, hey, we want to do virtual worship. We want to continue that. We don't really want to get people together in the church until whatever the goalpost is, right? Until there's 0 cases in our county or 0 cases in our state or whatever it is. That's fine. No one's forcing anybody to go back to church and worship together in a group. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The object of the training is to get a plan that follows the guidelines that was put out in the Faithful. Submit your plan, get it approved, and then you in each parish make a determination on when everybody feels safe getting together. There might be 10 people that feel safe getting together 2 weeks from now, and 90 people want to stay at home and watch it on Facebook. Okay, that's fine. You do what's comfortable for you and your parish. And that's really the message. And as far as the plan goes, that read everything in the faithful document, okay? And then you'll see there's more than just this phase. And then the plan is just basically the basics that the diocese is telling you we want to make sure that you understand and that you're doing before you open for any reason whatsoever. Does that make sense?
Does anybody have any questions or concerns, or does everybody feel better?
I just want to say thanks. This was helpful today.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody,
When will this be
Yes.
available
Yes.
online?
this plan, Roberta, to answer Roberta's question, yes, this plan will be required.
When will this recording be available online? I'd like to share it with someone.
I'll
Uh,
send the PowerPoints right after we get off. The recording, it usually takes like the next day. So then I can put the recording out too.
Thank you.
Okay, so, thanks everybody. This has been just really great. And I wanted to, I thought, well, what is a good prayer to conclude with, today? And I don't know about you, but I love evening prayer and I love Compline. And I just love this prayer. And so let us pray. Keep watch, dear Lord, with those who work or watch or weep this night. And give your angels charge over those who sleep. Tend to the sick, Lord Christ. Give rest to the weary. Bless the dying. Soothe the suffering. Pity the afflicted. Shield the joyous. And all for your love's sake. Amen.
Man.
Okay.
So on that beautiful note, good night, everybody. Hope you
Good
have a
night.
Good night.
Thank
Stay
you.
well, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well.
Bye-bye.
Stay
Bye.
healthy. Stay healthy.
No, I'm getting a new battery put in.